I was working as a fitness coach for a corporate wellness company that partnered with a large call center agency. My shift that day started at 6 o'clock, 11 and ended at 3 p.m. Like every other morning, I woke up early. I made breakfast, packed my lunch, took a quick shower, pulled on my work clothes. By 5 a.m., I was already on my way. I caught a ride and headed toward the business complex where I worked. A tall, commercial building attached to a large shopping mall. Our fitness center was located on the 15th floor. The sky was still dark when I arrived. I crossed the elevated walkway connecting the mall to the office tower. The place was eerily quiet. The kind of quiet that feels unnatural in a city that never truly sleeps. Inside the lobby, I stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut. The ride-up felt longer than usual. When I reached the 15th floor, I signed the attendance log at the security desk, scanned my access card, and entered the workplace. Everything seemed normal. At first, until I reached the gym. The lights were off, but the smart TV was on. That immediately bothered me. The TV was never left on overnight, ever. I asked the security guard if anyone had been inside earlier. He shook his head. I messaged the coach from the previous shift, asking if he had forgotten to turn it off. He replied almost instantly, "No, I'm sure I turned it off before leaving." A few minutes later, the security guard returned. His face was pale. He told me they had checked the CCTV footage. The TV had turned on by itself. I felt my stomach drop. That TV couldn't be turned on remotely. You had to physically press a switch behind it. There was no explanation. Still, I tried to ignore it. Before my shift officially began, I decided to squeeze in my own workout. It was a leg day. Squats, deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats, calf raises. By the time I finished, I was drenched in sweat. I headed into the shower room. The water poured over me, hot and steady. That's when I heard it. A faint sound. I froze. I knew I was alone in the gym. I told myself it was nothing. Pipes. Water pressure. My imagination. Then I heard it again. Closer. Louder. My heart began to race. And then a voice. Deep. Low. Ron. It said my name. Daniel. I panicked. I jumped out of the shower, water dripping from my hair, my hands shaking as I threw on my clothes. I rushed back to my desk, trying to steady my breathing, telling myself I was just tired, just stressed. At 6 a.m., clients started arriving. One of them, a regular I trusted, looked at me and frowned. "You don't look okay, coach." I hesitated. Then I asked quietly, "Do you think there are spirits in this building?"
He told me that years ago. A call center employee had died of a heart attack inside the building. After her death, the place was never blessed. People reported strange things ever since. Doors opening on their own, equipment moving, voices when no one was there. He leaned closer. One time I was doing crunches on the floor, and something grabbed my leg. When I looked, there was nothing there. His eyes were serious. "Be careful, coach." I couldn't speak. That entire night, the voice replayed in my head. If something was still there, would it come back for me? Few years later, when I was 24, I rented my first apartment. It was cheap, too cheap, but I didn't care. It was my first place, and I was excited to live alone. They never acknowledged me. They walked past like I didn't exist. Something about that place felt wrong. One evening, while heading to the supermarket, I noticed an apartment door down the hall slightly open. Curious, I peeked inside. What I saw made my skin crawl. Large group of people sat around. A long table, eating. The room was dark. No lights. No voices. Just the faint sound of dishes clicking. Every window was covered with thick curtains, trapping the shadows inside. Before I could react, the door slammed shut in my face. I jumped back, my heart racing. I convinced myself it was just the wind. A crowd of people stood directly in front of me. Their skin was pale, their faces blank, but their eyes were filled with anger. No. One moved. The silence was unbearable. Then one of them leaned in and whispered, "Invite us." His voice barely sounded human. I forced a nervous smile and tried to squeeze past them. "Rotten. Foul. Like decay," I gagged. When I turned around, the elevator doors closed behind me. A few days later, I came home to police cars outside the building. Officers stood near an apartment door, the same one I had peeked into. An officer stopped me and explained the tenant hadn't paid rent in weeks. The manager tried knocking. No answer. Just a terrible smell. When they broke the door open, they found a pile of shoes near the entrance. Far too many for one person. Inside, clothes were scattered everywhere. Shirts. Pants. Coats. As if people had vanished right out of them. In the center of the room stood the long table, covered in food, mold growing on every plate, but no people. On the wall, written in large red letters, were the words, "Thank you for inviting us." The tenant was never found. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his face. But every time I passed that apartment door, I still wonder, who were the people I saw eating in the dark? And what did I almost invite into my life?